Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast. This is episode 6, and today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch and taking a look at how that's been performing since launch in March. As usual, covering the news and some other things across the industry. So I'll be your host, Ainsley Bowden. I'm joined by Bert Sines, as usual, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So the first piece of news today is regarding Path of Exile. So Path of Exile from Grinding Gear Games out of New Zealand is a excellent action role-playing game that's been out for a few years on PC now. In fact, I was a beta supporter, I want to say back in 2013 or 14, and excellent action role-playing game. So that has just rolled out in beta form on the Xbox One, and registration is online if you want to try and get a key to get in on that. And I suggest you give it a shot because I've been playing it, and I think it's really good so far. So, Bert, have you ever touched on Path of Exile?
No, I haven't touched Path of Exile. However, I did apply for the beta. I didn't have any problems getting a key. I think they responded within 2 hours or something, and I got a key. I've already installed it. I have yet to play it, but I was really into Diablo 1 and 2 back on PC, and then I just kind of stepped away from it. I don't know what it is, and so funny enough, this weekend is the free-to-play Diablo, and the timing's kind of weird because it's right at the beta time this week. And just to confirm, what were the dates on the beta? How long is it lasting?
I don't think they've actually given an end date yet. They did confirm, however, that beta progress is not going to carry over. So, if you really get into it, just be aware that your character and all items, everything is being wiped for final release. They have not given a date for final release just yet, but we'll throw it up on our site when they do.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying, it's really cool from what I've seen as far as the footage on it, and it's a deeper Diablo, if I'm not mistaken. It's not a kind of a light ARPG. It's more of huge skill trees and a lot of time you can spend on it. So I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I'm not sure if it's the perfect game for me, but I know a lot of people are looking forward to it, and it looks really cool for me. So I'll give it a try, but I'm not sure if I love it. We'll see.
Yeah, you preface that well because it's a very hardcore action role-playing game. There's hundreds and hundreds of ways to customize your character due to the massive skill tree, and it's really for those guys who like to kind of mid-max and get in there really too. It's more complex than Diablo 3. It's got some fantastic loot and just the way they design things. So it's been iterated upon over the past few years, like I said, by Grinding Gear Games, and they just keep adding to it. It's free to play. All of the expansions are free. So they simply make money through cosmetic, microtransactions, which is, kind of, I think most gamers agree is the way to do it if you're going to have a free game. So didn't want to spend too much time on it, but I like talking about it because it really is a great game. So if you like those types of games, certainly give it a shot. Another kind of great thing for gamers is Doom, one of our favorite games from last year, just got a huge update. So it's all the multiplayer DLC that was originally part of the season pass is gone free. So that's free for everyone. They made a whole bunch of changes to the way you progress in multiplayer, some of the depth of the character progression, and a lot of bug fixes, and just a massive update. It's called Update 6.66. Like I said, it's free, opens it up for everyone. And on top of that, they're offering a free-to-play weekend on PlayStation 4 this weekend if you haven't tried it. And the retail price, if you want to buy it now, is only $14.99. So if you're one of those people who hasn't played Doom or given it a shot yet, even if you didn't play the old games back in 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago, absolutely give it a try because it's just a fantastic shooter and it really has a personality that you don't get to see often from other FPS titles nowadays.
Yeah, what a game! And I think to confirm it, that was our game of the year last year, from Season Gaming. So we both loved it. It's probably one of the most refreshing shooters that you'll play in a long time, and it plays homage to the original Doom game. So I mean, it's kind of crazy that it was so good, and it had kind of a weird launch because some people were hating on it, and then the multiplayer wasn't perfect at the beginning, so some people quit playing that because they only were interested in multiplayer. But the story was great, the way you progressed, the main character was great. So I definitely suggest it, and it's a must play if you're any kind of even casual shooter. You have to give it a try. It's so different from anything else, so I highly suggest it.
Yep, completely agree. So Xbox One X, our kind of hugely anticipated piece of hardware. We've been waiting on pre-orders to go live, and Phil Spencer this week mentioned that they did have FCC approval, and all the approvals are set. The November 7th launch date is set. So right now, Microsoft is just, they seem to be really close to letting the fan base know when they'll be able to get those pre-orders set up. So Right now, we're coming into August, so Gamescom, which is the huge game show in Germany every year, that's August 22nd to 26th this year. There's, kind of rumor circulating that may be the date that we see pre-orders go live, but at the same time, I kind of have an inkling that it may come sooner prior to Gamescom. But regardless, it should be coming soon, and so we'll keep everyone up to date on that as well.
Yeah, and obviously I don't think it's going to be anything like the SNES Mini issues with pre-orders and stuff. But I personally can't wait. It's going to be a big day for me to finally get my hands on it. So doing the pre-orders can be a big deal. It'll be interesting. There's been some weird rumors of potential like bundles of maybe a game that'll kind of showcase the power of the X1X. So I wonder what they're doing with that. And then there's also been some rumors of a surprise about the launch. So I wonder what all that is. But I bet you we see something in August, exactly what you were saying. So cool to see that happen.
Yeah, from a bundle perspective, that's definitely one of the larger rumors going around. And I don't know. I would tend to think they may do something with Forza 7 just because it's like a showcase title. Crackdown 3 is another possibility. But I would really think it would be cool if they did some custom Xbox One X consoles at launch, like a Crackdown 3 console. But being that it's the first launch for the hardware, I kind of doubt it. But we'll see.
Yeah, or kind of like they did the Forza console back when Forza, was it 6 that launched? Was that the console?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a cool little console. They had some funny noises that I think when you started it up, it sounded like a Ferrari, and then the controller was different and stuff. I think I'm on the hunt for that one whenever I can find that super cheap or even broken, just to kind of have it in my collection of consoles.
Yeah, so. Actually, that's the one that my sons play on. So that's what I've got upstairs. It's it's got blue with the racing stripes. It's the Ford GT. When you turn it on, it makes the Ford GT engine start noise. So, but it was also the first controller to have like the rubberized grips and those other features. So, yeah, it's neat. It's neat. But along that same vein, on Xbox One X, Player Unknown. So, Battlegrounds developer, a game that just everyone is talking about across the industry. Couple pieces of news on that. Actually, they announced that they've reached 6 million in sales. So this game has just exploded onto the scene. So if you think it's already hit 6 million, and that's PC only. So went from 1 million to 2 million kind of slowly, and kind of really became the popular broadcasting and streaming game, and it's just exploded. So that is coming to Xbox One later this year, as we saw at E3. And they came out this week, speaking of the Xbox One X, saying that they haven't fully optimized it yet. They don't have the final Xbox development kit for the Xbox One X, but they already have it running 100-man games or, on 100-player servers running at 30 to 40 frames on the Xbox One X. So it seems like they're probably relatively close to getting that buttoned up. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that be one of the kind of premier titles that launches in October, November for the Xbox One family.
Yeah, and I've always been kind of a bystander at the moment with that game. It might be too hardcore for me. I don't like the over-the-top realistic games where you die and then you lose everything or you're out for a while. Some people love that stuff, so I still need to see more from it. I'll probably give it a try once it comes out, just to see what it's all about and if it lives up to the hype as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see. I mean, I know a lot of people are super excited about it. At some conferences recently, people were seeing more about it and that it was coming to Xbox One. And so we'll see. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle ground there. I think I'm going to love it once I start playing it because I am competitive in that sense. But I've also watched some streams of it where sometimes it looks rather dull, maybe a harsh word, but there's a lot of kind of camping and sneaking around, which I don't know if I like. So we'll see. But either way, it's big news that they've already got it running and that it's coming later this year finally to console. And then another great piece of developer news here. Seems like we have a lot this Bitcast, but Techland, so the developer of Dying Light, which came out a few years ago now, surprised kind of everyone this week by saying that they're going to release 12 DLCs for free over the course of the next year for Dying Light. And one of the most interesting pieces of news on this is that they announced that at peak when the game first launched, they had about 700,000 players logging in weekly to play the game. And here we are, I think it's something 2.5, 3 years later since it launched originally, and there's still 500,000 players a week logging in to play Dying Light. So I haven't played it. It was one of those games that I played and beat Dead Island with a friend in co-op. We had a good time with it, despite some of the technical issues. And Dying Light was always one I wanted to get to and just never did. So this is just fantastic. I think I may put it back on my radar to go to it to support the developer. But I'm kind of surprised to see the following that, no pun intended, but the following that that game has garnered, because that's impressive to still have 500,000 players logging in weekly to a game like that.
Yeah, Dying Light's another one that I'm kind of like you. I enjoyed Dead Island. I have some friends that loved Dead Island, and we played it socially together. At the time, I was kind of over the whole zombie craze, but I gave it a try, and I liked Dead Island. And so I picked up Dying Light once again to do it from a social standpoint with a buddy of mine. And he got it, and he, he played it all single player. He didn't wait for me or anything. So it was kind of funny. He said it's one of the great zombie games that he's played. The story's awesome. And then I think it was a year after the game released, they had a massive DLC come out. I can't remember the name of the DLC, but it added.
So they renamed the kind of overall package Dying Light the Following. That's why I was saying that it's kind of garnered that.
Yeah, and so the Following is supposed to be awesome. There's new vehicles that you can do, and there's new sections of the game, and a lot of people think it's the best zombie game ever, from what I've seen on social media. And it's got a great fan base, as you can see. That we're talking about how many people still log in live for it, and I have it, so I might give it another try. Go back to it. I have it on Xbox One, so maybe I'll want another game to wait for Xbox One X support. With the developer being so much into the game, maybe they'll have a really cool patch for it. So maybe that's something we can play socially. With even our group, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so yeah, maybe I'll pick up a copy, and if they do an update for Xbox One X, we can kind of co-op it. So check it out.
One of the things that was kind of interesting this week is PSN Plus is going up in the UK as far as cost. It's going from 40 to 50 pounds. It's kind of like a price hike that we've seen. We saw it in the United States a while ago. It was at 40. So for people that are listening stateside, 50 pounds equals to about $65.50 US dollars. So it is becoming kind of pricey in general. I think PSN Plus has been more expensive than Xbox Live for a while, which is interesting because when Xbox Live had a fee, that was Sony's big thing. Our service is free or whatever. And now it's more expensive than Xbox Live, kind of worldwide. Another thing that's interesting is you can still find Xbox Live for a year a bit cheaper if you just catch it on the sale. I think that the going rate for Xbox Live, if you wait just for sales, is about $43. So I don't know. It's another thing. I think the reasoning for raising the price was to kind of do more stability with the service and offer more. Kind of hard for me to pay that just because I believe Xbox Live is a better overall service. I think when people only look at what are the free games you get every month, and that's the only thing they look at from a service standpoint. But when it comes to the overall features of what each service offers, it's really hard to argue that PSN Plus is better than Xbox Live. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that one. What are your thoughts on that, Ains?
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way. I don't, obviously we buy so much stuff for games, I don't mind spending the money, but I'd like to see what, Sony's going to do in terms of PSN stability to make this worth it. They still take it down for routine maintenance. Things like party chat, even on PSN, just the quality of it is below what Xbox Live is. It sounds closer to 360 than it does on Xbox One. And there's just little features like that. There's a lot more that Xbox Live as a service offers than PSN Plus does. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see if maybe Sony has some plans that they haven't discussed yet. But yeah, I mean, 50 pounds a year is a significant jump. As you said, it's 25% increase if you're living in the UK. So so another kind of sales related piece of news. So I kind of caught this just from different posts online over the week, but a couple larger titles that didn't seem to do well from a sales perspective, and both were paid exclusives for their platform. So I kind of wanted to just talk about that and see what our thoughts were because of that. So Dead Rising 4, which was an Xbox One exclusive, they worked with Capcom to develop it, but it came out at a weird time. It came out in December. The big thing missing from the game was co-op. A lot of people played Dead Rising 3 in co-op and had a great time with it, myself included. And Dead Rising 4 scrapped that, and I know that was a huge kind of outcry from the community that a lot of players weren't going to pick it up because of that. Again, myself included, I never bought it, neither did the friend I was going to play it with. So that has not even sold 1 million copies yet, and that's coming up on 7 months after release. So that's pretty shocking for the Dead Rising franchise, to not even see it sell a million copies. And then Street Fighter V, which was anticipated to be this huge release because it's Street Fighter, and any of the mainline Street Fighter titles are always a huge release. PlayStation 4 exclusive, and it had a rough launch. It lacked a ton of features that people expected, even like the stories for each character. And even now, so long later, that came out, if I recall, early last year. So it's been out for a long time now. Still is just around less than 1.5 million sold. So I think they said 1.7 million shipped, but shipped means there's probably a bunch of copies sitting on shelves. So not good sales for either of these, and I have to wonder if Capcom is thinking, maybe we shouldn't sign these exclusive deals to a single platform, or just finish their games more completely, because these didn't sell well at all.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Dead Rising had a massive advertising campaign. I remember I even saw a few of those commercials in the movie theater before a movie that I went to go see. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if, like I said, there was just people just weren't into Dead Rising. I don't know if it's because there's less Xbox Ones. I don't know if it's people are over zombies in general. It's kind of weird because there was a lot of cool things to it, and I don't know. We'll see what happens with that game, and if the developer does more to it later. Street Fighter was one that really bothered me when they went PS4 only, because I've played all the other Street Fighters. I may not play them for the longevity of the game, but the other funny thing is it had no campaign mode. There was no story mode. When you first got it, you could only play multiplayer. And since the game released, they've done a ton of tweaking to it. I have a few buddies that are, near professional Street Fighter gamers, and it's probably one of their least favorite games in recent times. And even in some of the tournaments that happen, there's still a lot of people that play it. It's not something that doesn't get played, but there's the signups for the game are less than other games. So I don't know. It was a cool looking game, though. I'll tell you that. The graphics are great on it, but that's another game you can get for like under $15 almost anywhere. So it's super cheap to pick up if you want to give it a try. They've added a lot of new characters and features. There is now a story mode, but I think that was just a game that was not ready for release. And you were asking about launch dates. It was February of 2016. So
yeah. So early last year, and that just for Street Fighter V. I mean, if you think about, everyone knows Street Fighter 2, but if you just think about Street Fighter in general and the following that game has, for it to sell 1.5 million copies a year and a half into its life is really poor for that title. So one of the most interesting pieces of news here. So Limited Run Games is a company that makes limited runs of physical copies of games that you can't traditionally get either physically or classics that haven't been out for years to come. So they announced a few months ago that they were going to be doing a remastered version of Night Trap. For those who may be a little younger and don't remember the 16-bit era too well, or when FMV or full motion video kind of first came onto the scene in video games, 3DO was a big proponent of this. Night Trap was a game that caused a lot of controversy at the time. It was one of the games that had people discussing whether video games were causing violence in children and all these other things. And it was a game essentially really almost like a B or even C movie title about some kind of sorority girls or younger girls that were in a house and they get attacked, and you basically have to escape. And it's known among some of the older guys as one of those just cult classic but hilariously bad games. And it's being remastered for its 25th anniversary, and Limited Run Games is doing a run of it. There's actually a collector's edition that you can get. And they're doing a run of it for PlayStation 4 and PC as well. So people have been waiting to see when this is going to go on sale, because Limited Run Games usually sell out really quickly and they don't make any more ever again. So if you're looking to get Night Trap for whatever crazy reason, they announced that that's coming August 11th. So that's going to be the date that they go up for pre-order. So keep an eye on that. But I've actually, sad to say, I've never played it. I've seen it, running on Sega CD, but I've never actually played it. And I'm kind of mad that I don't have an original copy of it just for the collection. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so Night Trap was that game that was too risque, I guess you could say, for me to play as a kid. My parents wouldn't allow it. I actually didn't have the consoles to play it either. It was wasn't it 3DO, and then it had the Sega Genesis attachments that you could play it as. I think it was like the 32X or maybe Sega CD.
It was it was Sega CD. I don't know if it was 3DO as well, or CDI at the time. Remember the Philips CDI? I don't remember exactly
Yeah.
all the platforms it was on. I know it was on Sega CD though.
Yeah, so I didn't have I never got the Sega CD until later when I was when I could afford it on my own. My parents wouldn't get it for me. But yeah, Night Trap was that game that was talked about on the news, and everybody was talking about how it was inappropriate and it was ruining kids' minds and all kinds of things like that. So I also have not played it, but I kind of want to play it just to kind of see the craziness of what it was. And I've seen videos, like some of the full motion videos have been on like YouTube or whatever. You can kind of catch it, and they're hilariously bad. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's cool. I'll actually try to grab a copy just from a collector standpoint.
Yeah, I might as well, and it's going to be interesting because I see these probably selling out really quickly because there's probably a bunch of people like us that just want to have a copy to say they have a copy of it. So I think it'll probably also kind of ignite the secondhand market for the original copies as well. So we'll see.
That'd be a fun one to try to get. So actually, what console does it play on, or is it more of just an anniversary edition?
It's PC, PlayStation 4, and then they're also doing a collector's edition that I don't know if you can get PS4 or PC on those as well, but it's like it comes in like a box with some extras, so you can find it on their site.
Yeah, I'll try to add a little picture of it for our viewers that are watching on YouTube, just so they can kind of see what it's about. But yeah, that'll be funny. I'd be curious to see how long loading times are compared to back in the day. Because I remember, man, for those to load that 15-second full motion video back, it was like a 4-minute load or something. The loading was longer than the video.
Yeah, the old like 2 double speed CD drives, going way back.
Loud as can be, Yep.
All right. Moving on to the next piece is so For Honor, a game that I talked about quite a bit at launch. It's still got a dedicated fan base, but a lot of players have dropped off on it. So we're seeing another Ubisoft title here where it launched in a state that may not have been 100% ready. A lot of people were having disconnect issues or some balance issues, etc. But they just released their roadmap, if you will, for this week, earlier this week, excuse me, for the next year. And they're going to be doing some major changes to the game. So they're going to be moving it to dedicated servers, which is something that fans have been pleading for since launch. They're going to be adding, maps and heroes and other things, more content. But they're also going to be doing balance changes, adding like a gameplay trainer mode and several things. So I think, again, this is going to be another one of those titles where I enjoyed it quite a bit actually at launch, but it's going to be a completely different game and a better game a year after launch than it was when it launched. So this is cool to see, but at the same time, it seems to be a recurring problem for a lot of major games nowadays, and it's getting a little frustrating for players who are the early adopters and not getting their full money's worth right at launch.
Yeah, Ubisoft. I don't even know what to think of them with a lot of their releases these days. Because funny enough, I called it that this would happen with this game because everybody was excited about it. I remember when the first trailers were launched back in the day, everybody was like, "This is gonna be great." But then the game comes out, and some people liked it a lot, and they were kind of just liking it because it finally came out. But I think when the reality set in and had a lot of things that were kind of missing and broken or whatever. But I don't know what it is about Ubisoft, man. I mean, they do this all the time. With their games, and in recent memory, Division's changed, Watch Dogs. Now we got For Honor changing a lot. I mean, I know it's good for the fan base, but to your point, if you buy this at launch and you're expecting a ton, and the game's completely changing a year later, or at least getting what they should have had at launch, I mean, just launch the game so when they're ready to go, please, Ubi.
Yeah, Rainbow Six Siege is another one too.
Oh god, Rainbow Six. Yeah. Didn't that have like horrible sales at the start, and then they had like a rebound where people were like, hey, it was actually good after they made the changes.
Yeah, it's actually grown in player base over the past year and a half. So yeah, supposedly a great game now, but again, for those, it's an interesting discussion really because it's a unique problem if you think about it for this industry, right? So if you think of other forms of media, you don't go to a theater and see a movie or read a book or listen to a CD that a year later is suddenly much better. You know what I mean? You're not.
Right.
It's really weird to think, oh, I spent $15 to go see Dunkirk, but I'm gonna wait till next year to watch it because Nolan's gonna make some updates and the movie will be a lot better next year. You know, that doesn't happen. So it's just the development of games is tough. It takes a long time, a lot of people, a lot of funding, and you know, they're constantly working through things. So I think it's one of those balances between as usual, between the developers and the goals and the publisher, you know, and the stockholders who need to get those games out. So, and it's funny because one of the Ubi games that's coming here next month actually is Mario. God damn it, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and that's, you know, in coordination with Nintendo. So if there's one company that is kind of known for having their first party software launch without a lot of bugs, it's Nintendo, right? Their releases are usually ready to go. And so I would love to be behind the scenes with Ubisoft and Nintendo being like, no, you know, this isn't ready to go.
Yeah.
Ubisoft trying to push it out last year or something, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I've never seen a Nintendo game that's got Mario that fans didn't eat up and either hate it or love it. I mean, there's a few games that they have kind of been on the fence about, like Mario Tennis. The most recent one was kind of like, what is this stuff? So we'll see. We got some good news coming from Titanfall 2. If you're a Titanfall 2 person that has kind of been on the side and kind of pushed away because they didn't like the first one, I can't tell you how much. Give it a try. It's so good. I loved the story in this one. People complained there was no story. They brought a story that still didn't change some ideas. I've kind of talked with Jordan and you about this. I think a lot of what happened with Titanfall 2 was the publisher kind of failed them, and also their launch window was just an unfortunate one. But in my opinion, Titanfall is still one of the best shooters around from even a multiplayer standpoint, not even that the story's back. But the big news about Titanfall 2, if I can get to the point here, is that it's going free. It'll be free on EA and Origin Access. So if you have either one of those services, you'll be able to play it for free. That'll be happening on Tuesday, August 1st. However, if you don't have either of those, you can get it dirt cheap. It's under $20. Just look for it used or even buy it new somewhere. GameStop, I think I've seen it numerous times in the past 6 months where it's their deal of the week for, I think, $19.99. And then the DLC on there, you can get it either completely free now. So I don't know what keeps people away from this game. It's on both consoles now. The big argument in the past was that it was only on Xbox One and it didn't have a campaign. It's on both consoles now. So if just give it a try is all I say. I mean, gosh, it was such a good game.
Yeah, it is, and we've touched on it before, so I won't spend too much time. But the developers, you know, Respawn, great developers. All the DLC is free. The campaign's amazing, so there's no reason not to try it. And to your point about getting it cheap, you know, if once it's free on EA or Origin Access, you can get a month of that for $5. So even if you just wanted to try it to play the campaign and try multiplayer, you can do that for $5 or less. So there's no reason not to try it if you like shooters. It's excellent.
Yeah, and last piece of news to round it off before we move to our next section. So there's some new news, and I know some people have run rampant with this one in the rumor stuff, but there's a new Battlefield coming in 2018. This was found per an EA investor call. There's no concrete details as to the time period they had. So obviously, remember Battlefield 1, that's kind of a different take in an alternate World War II story, so it's actually not based on history, more of a change on it. However, they have historical campaigns that happened in World War II. With Battlefront 2 coming out this year, obviously the focus is going to be on that this fall. So we are going to be seeing a new Battlefield in 2018, and obviously the assumption will be fall 2018. So we'll see what comes from it. It'll be interesting to see if they go maybe to a different era versus a future game. I don't see Battlefield moving to the future, but keep in mind, EA has not made any announcements to this, so before you run into the rumors and fake news story, that's all we've got from them so far. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you know, there's, as you said, there's been kind of rampant speculation around this one. Personally, I was just going to say that we've got World War II from, you know, Call of Duty this year. I would really love to see Battlefield go back to Vietnam. I thought the Vietnam expansion for Bad Company 2 was just simply amazing, and I love that era and the weaponry and the jungle maps. And I think with today's technology, especially, you know, PC, Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, some of the jungle settings and nighttime environments they could do for a Vietnam era game now, as compared to, say, you know, 6-7 years ago, would be really, really stunning. So that's where I hope they go with it, but we'll see.
Yeah, and at the same time, maybe they can make a full game of Vietnam versus just an expansion. So that would be
Right.
something cool. And we've got a touch of jungle stuff from the Star Wars Battlefront series, so that looked amazing too. So I'm with you. That would be awesome.
Yeah. All right, so that is wrapping up the news, which, like we said, we had quite a bit. There was one piece we wanted to touch on. So we usually touch on some news behind developers on the Bitcast here. We don't really have a lot. There's not really been no huge kind of developer-related news, but I wanted to touch on one thing, and that is just a couple months ago, the ID at Xbox program. So if you're not familiar with this, back in 2013, after the Xbox One launch, Microsoft recognized that indie development was, exploding essentially, and so they created an internal program called ID at Xbox, and essentially that's a group within the Xbox team that works with indie developers to get their games published on the Xbox One platform and PC, and helps them with development kits and things of that nature, funding and help with coding and things like that. And long story short, so in the past less than 4 years, the ID at Xbox program has produced over 500 games, they announced, and it's over 1 billion hours played. So, which is just extraordinary if you kind of think about that and put that into context and perspective. But one of the additional things that they've been working on, they actually announced this kind of quietly a couple years ago, and it's been a long time coming, and it's actually out now, is that one of the latest updates on the Xbox One platform is called the Creators Update. And what that allows you to do is that anybody with an Xbox One, even your base launch Xbox One, can now actually create a game. So if you're one of those kind of tinkerers or one of those kind of people that just likes to code in their spare time and make some games, or even no matter how small they are, how simple they are, you can actually program that like you normally would, but then you can basically use your Xbox One to publish that out and see how it would run, including even things like Xbox Live integration and social integration. So this is really neat. I think that I just wanted to touch on it because it's really unique. It's not going to affect a large number of people. But, if you think about just even like 10, 15 years ago, how hard it was to get into coding and really get something out there in front of people to play, it's easier than ever now. And that's why we're seeing so many of these smaller indie games. But I think this is neat that Microsoft is supporting this. And if you're one of those people who do like to code and do like to do these things, definitely look it up if you're not aware of it, because it may help you get your game out there in front of some people.
Yeah, really cool stuff, and I love when Xbox does this kind of stuff with kind of developers and different stuff. They did some similar things back in the 360 stuff, but you had to be kind of registered with them and everything. But yeah, really cool to see.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a little more obscure, but I think this is Microsoft using some of their breadth across the industry and just all of their resources, right? So the more they can help some smaller people like independent developers do things like this, the better. So I think that's great. So that was all we had from the developer side, and then we also like to cover kind of rumors, or we like to say fake news nowadays, right? But the only thing that we saw recently come out this week actually was kind of blew up, of course, because it's Grand Theft Auto related. But a piece of news came out and was run across many of the larger sites that Grand Theft Auto 6 was officially in development because a motion capture actor had it listed in his resume with Red Dead Redemption 2 and a few other titles. So this kind of got run with for about a day, and then it kind of came out the following day. The actor said, "This is 100% untrue. I'm not doing any motion capture work right now." And the website that originally posted it was not, any affiliate to any development company. So this was just kind of put out there. I mean, it goes without saying that Grand Theft Auto 6 is likely being planned by Rockstar, but it's probably a little ways out, especially with Red Dead Redemption 2 yet to launch, and Grand Theft Auto 5 online still just booming for them in terms of revenue. So, but just wanted to clear that up in case anyone saw that news story that Grand Theft Auto 6 was officially in development. There's been no official word, and that is unconfirmed.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that we are going to see another Grand Theft Auto coming. It's just this is not a real announcement at some point, but and Rockstar can't do anything bad these days when it comes to releases and games. But these rumors and fake stuff coming out, man, this is going to confuse gamers in general. in the near future. I see more of it happening. We had it happen with Andromeda recently, with DLC coming. Now we have another fake information coming regarding someone's resume. I mean, when you start messing with actors' resumes and stuff, that's kind of weird. But I guess we're going to see more of it. So unfortunate, but hopefully people pay attention to the announcement and wait for it to be confirmed before telling everybody about it, which can cause headaches. So.
Yeah, for sure. So that's all we had from the news perspective. So we're going to move on to kind of new releases and what we've been playing. So some larger new releases this past week or week and a half. So we had Fortnite, which is a big one. That's across PC, PS4, and Xbox. And we'll touch on that more because we've been playing that one. So that's the game from Epic that has been in production for a long time now. I think it originally debuted 5 or 6 years ago, and has finally released in early access form, and we've been playing that, so we'll talk about it. We have Sundered and Pyre. So these are two kind of indie titles from Pyre from Supergiant Games, and Sundered is a hand-drawn kind of Metroidvania style game. These both launched on PS4 and PC. Pyre in particular is getting really, really good reviews. So Pyre is from Supergiant Games, like I said. Transistor and Bastion were their previous games, also pretty highly regarded, but this one is really seemed to be getting people excited. And then we had Splatoon 2 released for the Nintendo Switch. So that is a huge release for the Switch, especially overseas and in Japan. It's selling like wildfire. And then Modern Warfare Remastered also released as a standalone title. So if you recall, you had to buy Infinite Warfare to get Modern Warfare Remastered previously, but it is now released as a standalone title, for $39.99. So, Bert, what are your thoughts on some of these games?
Yeah, so some of the smaller ones, I've heard of them in the past when they were announced. I didn't know anything about them, and in watching a lot of the reviews for them, they look really interesting. However, my backlog is insane right now, so I probably will not touch Sundered or Pyre for a while. So that's kind of unfortunate because it's getting or I should say Pyre. Sundered's getting very mediocre reviews, but Pyre, man, it was getting like an 85 on OpenCritic, so it's scoring super high. When you hear some of the reviewers talk about the game, on how the game makes you feel when you play it, and then you are thinking about the game after you've played it, even when you're not gaming, that's something strong to keep in mind as to a good game. So maybe I'm going to have to force myself to touch that one. Splatoon 2, another big first-party game for the Switch. Unfortunately, I didn't care for the first one too much as everybody else does, but people are loving Splatoon 2. It's doing awesome in sales. I see on social media that they had a great time with it, or users that I follow, I should say. So it's doing well. It's doing a lot better than ARMS did when that released. So I think people love that, and it's getting reviewed about what I expected. I think it's averaging an 83 right now, and I expected an 85 or 86. So I'm only a couple points off, but it's doing what I expected. Modern Warfare Remastered has ticked a lot of people off because a lot of people went with the was it Infinite Warfare Legacy Edition, which is including me. But I got it for a good price to where I can't really complain about it. But for people that paid more and are were like, I'm only getting this because I went with the Legacy thing, it's gonna upset a lot of people. And it's actually not going for that cheap either. It's going for $40. So let's see, Modern Warfare came out 2007.
Yep.
7. Yeah. So, gosh, I know it's remastered, and I will tell you, it looks great on the new consoles, but it's kind of weird. And they've also been charging for DLC for that game too. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about what people think about it. I have a family member that works for Activision, and they know quite a bit about this controversy. So unfortunate in some ways, but cool that you're getting it if you don't care for the Infinite Warfare space battle type thing. I just think $40 is a bit steep, but who knows? I guess Activision knows what they're doing, but maybe they don't. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and I could echo all of that, but just for listeners, so if you are interested in getting Modern Warfare Remastered, don't spend the $40 on just that. You can actually get the Infinite Warfare Legacy Edition, which includes it, for less than $40 in places now. In fact, there was a place, I forget where it was online earlier or last week, excuse me, was selling it for $34.99, and you got both games. So why not get both games rather than just buying the $40 game? But yeah, it has caused a lot of controversy among the COD crowd. So we'll see how that sells. I don't know if that's going to sell as well as they had hoped, but we'll see.
Yeah, and so really quick on people that are wondering how it works disc-wise. So you get one disc. There's not two discs inside of it. It's a Blu-ray, obviously, so you're going to have a lot more data abilities on there. And when you launch either game, it sends you to the menu first, and it tells you which one do you want to launch, and then it launches its own standalone game. So it's not built into Infinite Warfare to where you simply launch it from one of their menus. It's its own game, but you do have to have the disc unless you went digital for it. So it's a little different how it works. It's not two different discs.
Yep. And then just a couple betas that people are interested in. We actually we're giving away some NHL 18 beta codes yesterday on our Twitter account. But NHL 18 beta is out, and that's running through Tuesday, I believe. And then Path of Exile, as we already kind of commented on, is one of the pieces of news. So those are running as well. So in terms of currently playing, what have you been playing, Bert?
Yeah, so with our social group, I've been giving Fortnite a try. I find it super fun. I don't get into super deep side of this stuff like you guys do. I always joke around. I just like shooting shit. So, however, the best way to explain this game, it's Plants vs. Zombies with Minecraft, and then I don't know, some kind of zombie game I could throw in there, Left 4 Dead or something, all mixed into one game. So if you're into that at all, I suggest giving it a try. I'm finishing up Andromeda. I hate to say it, but this is one of my favorite games of this year. I know
it's not. No,
yes, it is. It's fantastic. I'm actually going to be writing an article and probably doing a video on why people need to actually give this game a try. It's fantastic. I liked it a lot. And I'm at hour 54. So I think on the how long to beat website, I think it says it's about 65 to 70 hours if you go and get every mission. Getting a completionist, I think it takes about 100 hours or something, but I won't be doing that. I'll be doing as much as I can. And then lastly, I'm going to be giving Diablo 3 a try this weekend. So that's what I'm currently playing. There's some smaller games that some of the Telltale games that I'm finishing up, which is Game of Thrones and Borderlands Telltale games. So I play those kind of on the side when I want to just kind of play something different. How about you?
Yeah, so you commented on Fortnite. Obviously, we've been playing that together and doing some of our co-streaming on Mixer. If you want to, any of the listeners want to check out Fortnite from our early access. I'm loving Fortnite. There are a few complaints among the community around the way it's set up, because eventually down the line it will be a free-to-play game. And so if you think about the structure of how you earn things in the game, there's kind of daily activities, and you have to unlock certain things, and there is quite a lot of management to your inventory and the things in the game. But from a gameplay perspective, it's an absolute blast. You were saying it's kind of like Minecraft with Plants vs. Zombies, and that's exactly right. And then I would throw in Borderlands on top of that. So there's a huge amount of gun variation and styles and crafting that you can do, and lots of loot. And then you can play it in 4-player co-op as well. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying that, actually. I put some impressions up on the site if you want to check them out. And like I said, we've been doing some streaming on Mixer as well. So, anything you want to get from Fortnite, we're kind of covering for you. And then I've been playing some of the betas we just talked about. So big NHL fan, hockey player, as I've mentioned before. So I usually do some impressions of NHL. I play it every year. And we played, 3 of us played some EA SHL last night. And I got to say, I'm quite disappointed in it. It's likely the least I've seen NHL change or improve in a number of years, probably since 15. And right now, I've got to play it a little more, but right now I'm not impressed at all. So I'll probably write some impressions on that once I get a little more gameplay with it, but we'll see. And then Path of Exile, I was trying out. I was a beta supporter on Path of Exile, an original kind of funder of the game. I've put a lot of hours into it on PC. I beat the original game. When they expanded it, I beat that again. I've run multiple classes. So I wanted to see how it ran on Xbox One. It runs great. I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised at how good it runs. It looks beautiful, plays well. The menu system is not too counterintuitive. Sometimes the management of the inventory and stuff is a pain on controller, and it's not as precise, or excuse me, not as concise as it is with keyboard and mouse, but it's still excellent. So gotta be playing that. And then lastly, The Long Dark is a survival game that launches this week. The launch trailer we put up on the site this morning, and we're going to be likely reviewing that as well. So I've put some time into that, and I'm enjoying it so far, but I need to spend some more time with it. So
you're not really playing anything, is what you're saying.
And that's what I played yesterday.
This morning.
Yeah. So there's a whole host of other games I won't touch on, but those are the main ones. Fortnite really has me quite addicted to it, honestly. I'm thinking about playing it as we're talking. So probably be playing that a lot over the coming weeks. All right. So we want to move on to the main topic, and today we were going to kind of revisit the Switch. So we talked about it at launch. Bert did a bunch of kind of videos, unboxings, comparisons, and all the information you would want to know about the Switch is still out there on our site. If you're still, new to picking it up or thinking about picking it up, you can find all of that out there on our YouTube channel or the articles on the site. But we were going to kind of come back to it and say, just take another look at it, because it's been out for 5 months now. It's selling well. ARMS and Splatoon 2 are out in the wild, the two of the big releases for the Switch out of its initial kind of launch window. And anyway, so just to give you some figures, so Nintendo came out this week and announced that it has sold 4.7 million Switches since March when it launched. It is on a better pace of sales than the Wii U, which really isn't too impressive because the Wii U didn't sell well, but it's also selling faster than the 3DS, which is impressive. So essentially, I think right now, Nintendo is pretty much selling as many Switches as they could make. Anytime it comes in stock, people are buying them up. So I think they're in really good shape with the Switch right now. Both Bert and I own one, obviously, so we've kind of talked about that. But let me give you some sales figures of the titles to just show you how high the attach rate is for the software for the Nintendo Switch. So Zelda, which we've talked about ad nauseum, so we won't cover that again. It's a forerunner for Game of the Year and almost everywhere. That has sold nearly 4 million copies. So if you think that Nintendo Switch has sold 4.7 million units and Zelda sold 4 million copies, I think you know why people are buying a Switch. Splatoon 2 selling extremely well. It just came out, so we don't have any huge figures yet, but they've said in 3 days it already sold more than Zelda in Japan, something over 600,000 copies just in Japan in 3 days. And it's selling well in the US too. So, that's selling huge. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, fastest selling Mario Kart game ever. It has just reached 3.5 million units sold. And then ARMS, which is a more obscure game. We didn't know how that would do. I did play in the beta for it, and I haven't bought it, but it has already sold just in 2 weeks in June, because they didn't have the July data yet, but it has already sold over 1 million copies as well. So, I mean, it's kind of obvious that people are software starved and willing to support the Switch. We've talked about it before. There's something about just being able to take your home console with you on the go that makes you want to buy games for it, because you feel like you can have that console experience anywhere, which is kind of amazing. So anyway, Bert, I've kind of been rambling here, but that's the overall kind of picture of what Nintendo's seeing with the Switch. It's selling like hotcakes. The software's selling well. People want it. So it seems like they have a big success on their hands.
Yeah, one of the things that when I actually reviewed it, the console during the unboxing, I kind of mentioned kind of something funny. I was like, they should have waited to the summer, or if you're in no rush to play Zelda, wait for the summer. Well, here I am in the summer, and I'm going to extend it. Wait till the fall. And the reason I say this is because I kind of call this like fabricated hype, in the sense to where I think a lot of people that have been on the fence about a Switch are like, I really want one, but am I going to get one? And then they hear they can get one, and they run out and get one. And what happens in that sense is you get the console, and if you were a Nintendo Wii U adopter and you have one and you have the software, there's very little for you to play right now. Zelda is obviously a game. It's my current game of the year. It's second game of the year behind Horizon Zero Dawn. But after you play Zelda, there's really not much else to really play. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, if you already played Mario Kart on Wii U, there's really nothing new here with the exception of a few multiplayer modes and a couple new features when you're playing in the GPs. A lot of the software that's out is stuff from the previous generation, and that's for PS3, Xbox 360, and I guess Wii U. Wii U is kind of one of those weird consoles where it's sat in the middle of 2 generations. So I actually have had a hard time coming back to the Switch since playing a lot of software on it. I only play it socially now with friends when they come over. And Nintendo seems to be doing this thing where they have 1 or 2 games that come out every quarter, and that sells out crazy. ARM is a game that when I actually mentioned it when we were playing beta on it, I thought it was kind of like a showcase demo for what the console could do. But did I ever think that it was going to sell over 1 million units? No way. The game's a lot deeper than we expected, and it's good. But I'm surprised that somebody went out and bought it at full price at $60 for waiting for it to go down. Splatoon 2, like I said, it's not for me, but a lot of people love it, and I got nothing negative to say about it. So, great for them. I think that's a game a lot of people were waiting for. But when you take out Zelda, when you take out Mario Kart, which was a game from last generation, you take out ARMS and you take out Splatoon 2, what other massive games have released for the Switch in the past 5 months? Almost in August, we're going to get the Ubisoft game, Mario and Rabbids. But aside from that, what else has come out in the past? That'll be, I guess, 6 months. So it's great for people that didn't do any Wii U stuff. It's not good for people that did do Wii U stuff and support Nintendo. And like I said, I am not coming back to the Switch every day and wanting to play it now that I finished Zelda. I actually had a hard time finishing most of the stuff from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I haven't platinumed every single race, and I only play it now when people are over. I can't play it single player because it's just too repetitive at this point. So I don't know. I don't want to dog Nintendo too much because I'm probably the biggest Nintendo fan on our site, but it's such a weird phenomenon for me on when Nintendo stuff comes out. People just love it, eat it up no matter what. Actually, I do remember what the game is. Pokken Tournament, the new Pokemon game, that was on Wii U too, and people are already going out and looking for custom controllers to have Pokemon figures on there. That people are already like pre-ordering it and they can't wait for it to come out. It was already out. It's people have already played it last generation. So I'm sure that's going to sell crazy in Japan, and people are going to probably buy United States too with all the Pokemon craze right now. So I don't know. It's weird for me. I'm waiting for maybe software coming down the line. Mario's going to blow us away, I'm sure. But we'll see. I mean, it's so weird being a huge Nintendo fan, but being like a massive supporter for the Switch, because it's really hard to stand up for a lot of what Nintendo's choices are. And don't even get me started on the online app for chatting. So,
yeah, I was just going to further your point that you're mentioning how all this stuff can already be played, and really you didn't need a Switch to play Zelda. It came out on the Wii U as well. But I think to your point, I would guess anyway that one of the reasons people are buying so much software for it is kind of what I said, and I think other people feel the same, is that just because it's portable, just because you can take it with you, people are willing to buy more software with it because whether you're on an airplane or a bus or wherever you're going, you can kind of take it with you. So I don't know. I'm kind of partially with you. I haven't touched mine in a while outside of the traveling I did over the summer. As I mentioned before, I'm not the hugest Zelda fan, so I do have it. I play it on occasion, but I haven't gone back to it lately. I am buying Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, so we'll see how that is. That looks fun and unique. And then, as you said, Mario Odyssey is the game I truly bought a Switch for. But I think your point about the fabricated hype or shortage is causing people to buy it. I could almost say I'm one of those people, because if you remember, I was looking for one. I got one at launch. I returned it because I was waiting for Mario. I was going to wait till the fall. Then the shortage happened, and I was like, maybe I should pick one up. And I did. I found one and I bought it, and I haven't put that much time into it, honestly. In fact, the game I think I've probably played almost as much as Zelda, and I played it more than Mario Kart, was a Neo Geo classic that I loved, because some of the downloadable software on Switch are some Neo Geo titles, and I was a big Neo Geo fan. So yeah, I think your point's valid there. But so let's talk a little bit about some of the core lacking features, right? So you mentioned the online app. It was originally coming in fall of this year. They delayed it till next year. There is a free version that came out, really kind of bare bones-ish with Splatoon 2, so that you can download that app on your phone now. I think you showed a picture in one of our previous Bitcasts, did you not, of like the setup of what you need to do to kind of use that as chat, and it's quite frankly just utterly ridiculous. I don't understand it. I don't know what Nintendo's thinking here, especially when, if you just think about the other consoles on the market, how easy it is to just turn on the console and start chatting or playing with your friends. They make it so difficult, and so it's so lackluster on the Switch. And then, even app support too. So things, things that people have come to expect that were there a few years into the 360 and PS3 generation. So Netflix, Amazon, just going on and being able to stream. And you've got a portable device, right? Like if you think about it in a tablet in your house, there's no reason at all you shouldn't have launched with just being able to watch Netflix like you would on a tablet on your Switch. And none of that is currently out there. That's been delayed with no ETA. There's no date as to when that stuff's coming. I believe it's Nico Nico is the kind of Japanese YouTube that just launched last week or 2 weeks ago, and that's the first app that's actually launched on the Switch. But that really is not huge for anyone here in the U.S., obviously. So um, I don't know. We've kind of talked about it before, but it's going to be interesting over the next year to see how the Switch develops, because right now it is lacking. I think it's getting by on hype, and it's getting by on its portability factor. And I think if you remove those two things, now I don't think it does well at all. But that said, of course, the portability factor is the core, functionality and design behind the Switch. So I think from that perspective, Nintendo nailed it. But other than that, I don't know what people are playing so heavily on, as you said, that you couldn't play elsewhere.
Yeah, and a couple things to touch on that. It's really weird when your handheld portable, the 3DS and the PS Vita, can do all the streaming services. Yes, the 3DS can do Netflix, the 3DS can do YouTube, which is really weird when your big target item that comes out can't. So that's really strange to me as far as the decision. I know I've seen some responses and people, we only want to play games. Well, I think you're in the minority. I think a lot of people, when you're spending that much money on a console that has the power that it has, you should be able to easily look at a YouTube. I mean, you got a touch screen where you could type things in. So it's kind of weird for me to justify that it's lacking on so much. So I don't know about that, and like the chat program makes zero sense for people that didn't know what it is. It came with Splatoon 2. There's one piece that you buy, and then one cord goes to your phone, the other cord goes to your headset, and the other cord goes to the console. So you have like this weird thing that controls everything in the middle of it, and you have to have it on there. If you have a phone that doesn't charge or something, you're kind of screwed. Sorry, it has a different port for charging, so the newer iPhones don't do that. Kind of weird. I don't know. It's like I said, I can't talk about it too much. And regarding how I play it, like at home, I only play it on the dock. I'm not a big handheld gamer. So I was hoping that the Switch would have more docked features than stuff. I only do handheld when I'm traveling, and thankfully I do travel a lot. But now I found myself looking for games to play on the go, and there is a few, but not enough for me to just continually buy software. So I don't know. And then, like I said before, the previous gen and the previous gen coming instead of new software, I don't know how long Nintendo's going to ride on that. I think what's going to happen, and this is just a prediction from me, there's no substantiation behind it. But I think what's going to happen is the 3DS is eventually going to get phased out. The Switch will become the one be-all for Nintendo for handheld and home gaming. And after that, people are going to move from their 3DS eventually and only buy Switch stuff. So that'll be another kind of Nintendo trickery, I guess you'd call it, to where it's the only way and the only place you can buy Nintendo software. And so that'll kind of keep the hype going. And I can't understand if it's genius what Nintendo does or if it's the worst idea ever. It's just such a weird thing. It's like they're completely polar opposites, but it works for them. Gosh, to think that they've already sold half of what the Wii U sold in 5 months, or almost half. I think the Wii U sold around 12 million units. But I don't know. Yeah, that's all I got to say about it. I have a ton more, but I don't want to spend too much time. It does all sound like an idiot. So
yeah, no, I think a lot of people, especially people who aren't just diehard Nintendo. I hate the word fanboy, but people who defend them no matter what. I think there's that group of people out there, but people who look at them objectively have similar thoughts and complaints. It's just Nintendo has such a following, and they have so many iconic characters and franchises, and it just seems so weird that they manage them the way that they do. And I don't know. As you said, I can't tell if they are complete idiots with the way they handle it, or if they're geniuses, because we keep saying we seem every few years to talk about Nintendo doing stupid things, and yet their stock and their business revenue and their profits just continue to rise. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's why we're not running Nintendo. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, in regards to playing it at home, I'm just like you. If I'm at home, I prefer to play it docked. I'd much rather play on the TV. Much rather play with the Pro Controller. I can play the Switch holding it, but after a little while, it does get a little uncomfortable. Like I had a few-hour plane ride where I was playing Zelda, and after a little bit, my wrist started to kind of lock up on me a little bit. But yeah, I think I don't know. We'll see. I think it's going to be interesting to see, like I said, the next year when Mario releases in the fall. That's obviously he's the king, and if they figure out the shortages by fall, I think the Switch is going to sell just amazingly well through through the holidays. So we'll see. But I really hope that Mario blows us away. And really, I only have one more question for you on the Switch that we can comment on, and that is, do you prefer the gray one or the neon one?
Well, since I'm not a big fan of loving a ton of attention and people staring at me because something's too bright, I'm not that person. So I went with the gray one, and I love the gray one. I actually love, one thing I will say about the Switch is it feels and looks awesome. There's the feel of it and the quality of it is great. So how about you?
And clearly, as tends to happen from time to time, Bert is wrong. But so obviously the one to go with is the neon, and
Gosh, I can't even see right now. I feel like
I know it's blinding. I really could just turn the lights off here and just kind of hold this up in front of me, and you'd be fine. But no, actually, as you know, I wanted a gray one, and this happened to be the one that went in stock when I was stumbling upon it. So I picked it up. But funny enough, I kind of like it now. So I like the blue. I may end up, again, a sucker for what Nintendo does. But they put a blue and a red, and then they sell a separate set of these that give you the blue on the right and the red on the left. So if you want to actually color coordinate, like you want blue on both sides, you can go spend another $80 and get Joy-Cons that'll allow you to do that. So, and again, those are selling out. Every accessory for this Switch is selling out as well. So,
I have one final question for you too. If you were to predict the final sales of what the Nintendo Switch will do, what is your number?
Oh, that's a good one. We'll come back to that if Bitcast is still alive in a few years. All right, let's throw a number out there. Let's say 70 million.
Wow. Okay. I'm sticking at 50 million. I think it'll do 50 million, and then by then Nintendo will have something new out.
Okay. So yeah, I think be interesting because I don't think it's going to match the Wii.
No.
And PS3 and Xbox 360 are both 80, like the low 80s, 82 million. So I don't think it'll reach that either. But yeah, we'll see. That'd be interesting to come back to, actually.
Yep.
So, okay, well, that's the Switch. We'll revisit it again maybe at the end of the year and see how it does over the holidays and with Mario releasing. But we wanted to just kind of touch back on that for people, as the shortages kind of get better and people are picking them up, give our thoughts on it. So plenty of info out on our site, like I said, if you want to learn more about the Switch and what you're getting. So we're moving on to another section we like to do here, as you know, regarding collectibles. So video game collectibles, both Bert and I, as you can kind of see, we're always buying something game related. So Bert, what do you have to show this week?
Yeah, so I tend to scour over Craigslist probably every other week just to see what's going on. And I got really lucky this week. I got the Halo Reach Legendary, I believe it was called. It was the big box that came out, or maybe Halo Reach Limited Edition, maybe what it was called. And I have the statue sitting up here. I don't want to bring it down because all the weapons get weird, but it came with the actual box as well. And what makes this thing really cool is that it's got Halsey's journals. And so if you have no idea who Halsey is, she's one of the main characters in the entire Halo universe and canon. And she was the one that came up with the Spartan program and kind of has a special relationship with John, which is Master Chief. And so inside of it, you get her journals. And that was something that is just a huge thing for me. And I have it right here. It's in this thing. I don't want to pull it all out, but the stuff in this collector's edition that came out was just awesome. It has so many things. Game came with it too, and the big box is there too. I just didn't want to pull it out for the video, but it came with everything, and I got it for $20. So it was a big win for me. I think when this came out, Ains, I don't know if you remember, but wasn't it like $150 or $200?
Yeah, it was 150 if I recall correctly. Though I don't really know anything about Halo, so
you probably don't. You're not a fan. You're not a fan. So I was able to get that, and I actually bought it when it launched, and there was a whole cleansing thing that I did a few years ago where I got rid of all my collector's editions because I didn't have room in my small apartment. So I regretted it ever since. $20, man. I got an awesome deal on it. And the guy that sold it to me is another Halo guy. So he was like, I'm glad it's going to a good home. So I did that. Lastly, my friend was recently in Japan. He got me 2 of my favorite games for the Super Famicom, Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG. I do have a Super Famicom. I just need to find an AC adapter for it to play it. The unfortunate thing is I won't be able to understand what I'm playing because it's all in Japanese. However, I wanted it just from a collector standpoint. These Famicom cartridges are awesome to me. It would have been cool to have a complete in box. But we'll see what happens in the future. I'm going to the retro gaming convention this weekend in Austin, so maybe they'll have something there that I can't pass up. But that's it for me this week. How about you?
Yeah, that's awesome. I was just gonna comment on the reach. I was saying that I noticed that the statue's sitting right above my head here, so the camera doesn't get the whole thing. But yeah, that collector's edition was fantastic. Even just the box itself is really cool. You know, it's because it's modeled after one of the UNSC crates in the game. So that was probably my favorite Halo Collector's Edition. Halo 5's was actually pretty good, but I mean, Halo 5 is I prefer Reach as a story and the characters in that sense, just Noble Six and all those characters. So that was really neat. For me, I was just going to quickly, a smaller thing, but kind of neat. So we were talking about limited run games earlier with Night Trap. So another company out there that does some things like that is called I Am 8-Bit. And this is the physical copy of Hyper Light Drifter, which was a PS4 game. And what they do is very similar. So they make a physical copy and then they give you some nice things with it. So for instance, it's got a full color instruction manual, things that we used to get normally with games, which is really neat. It comes with a gold foil reversible cover and then a full color map as well, which I won't fold out in front of you here. And then, of course, you get the physical copy of the game. So these are really neat for collectors like us because it's, rather than buying the $15 or $20 digital copy, which you really, I'm not a huge digital copy fan. I like having the hard stuff. So getting a physical copy that's unique, they only make 9,000 of these and they've been sold out for a while, and having all the, the manual and the map and things that go with the game. I've always loved that stuff. So I thought that was really neat. So like I said, limited run games. And I Am 8-Bit is the name of the site that did this one. So keep an eye on those things if you like these types of collector's things because they're really neat.
Man, that's awesome. That's great for collectors. There's a lot of companies that do really cool things like that. So I love when that stuff comes out.
Yeah, it's really neat. And I hadn't played Hyper Light Drifter previously. So, I some of those small indie titles that I hear may get physical copies, I'll actually wait on until they release them just because I prefer that greatly. All right. So moving on to season reflections, our little segment here where we like to talk about a classic game that we loved, whether or not it's still playable today, how you can find it, etc. So, Bert, what's yours for this Bitcast?
Season reflections. Okay, so funny enough, my game is what I actually got from Japan, which is Super Mario RPG. It is my season reflection for this week. I can't tell you how much I love this game. This is when Nintendo and Squaresoft had a partnership to make a game. There's a huge story behind this. So if you're interested in the documentary behind it, it's on YouTube. I'll actually try to find the link for it. But it was an amazing game because it was an RPG at a time when Squaresoft was unmatched with RPGs. And they got together with Nintendo and made a Super Mario RPG. And the art direction, the story, the graphics that were at the time for the Super Nintendo were just great. It's actually still very playable if you're into the, the retro RPG type stuff. Obviously, there's no full motion video or any amazing graphics like that, but the story was great on it. And it was just one of my favorite games back then. It's why it's my reflection today. I need to kind of see if I can find a Super Nintendo version and not a Super Famicom version for it. And yes, like I said, you can play it, and it is going to be one of the games that's coming out for the Super Nintendo Mini. So if you pick that up, you'll be able to kind of play it there. I think that'll be kind of the best way to play it because you'll have HDMI support. They'll have the plugs. You can simply just play it, and I'm sure they're going to have a good emulator to play for it. So if you can find it for Super Nintendo or Super Famicom, if you have that, check this game out. Obviously, it's going to be playing up here as a video for you to see what it was about and how cool it was. But I love this game, so check it out.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. and mad at myself because I remember, I was a huge Super Nintendo fan, one of my favorite consoles of all time. It might be my favorite console of all time. And I remember when you could buy that game, obviously in the store, but also, when it started to kind of fade away, you could get it for like 30, $40. And I never bought a copy. And now they go for, I haven't even looked lately, but I know a Super Nintendo mint copy box instruction manual, they're not cheap to pick up.
Yeah, they're north of $100. So, and if you can get one sealed, it's north of like $200. So they're great. Yep.
Yeah, really mad at myself that I don't have a copy of that because it is really cool. As you said, it came at a time where Square Enix was making just tremendous software between the 16-bit era with Final Fantasy 2 and 3 in the US, and then into PlayStation 1's era with all the games at that time. Squaresoft were just fantastic, so it's kind of neat. And I have to wonder if don't want to keep going here, but I have to wonder if the Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is kind of like this new strategy version of with Mario characters, is not looked upon. It may not be as great or as a classic as Mario RPG, but it may be looked upon as one of those one-off Mario games, 10, 15, 20 years down the line that was kind of unique at the time too. So it'll be interesting to see. Moving on to mine, this is I'm only going back last generation. I usually like to go a little older, but I happened to come across this title sitting on my shelf, and I loved it to death. And I still feel, kind of sad at the fact that the whole fallout that happened between Rockstar and was it Team Bondi, I believe, out of Australia. So this is L.A.Noire. So this is the complete edition, which is really neat. This is a 4-disc copy for Xbox 360. It was a fantastic game. If you haven't played L.A.Noire, if you think like a combination of Grand Theft Auto but mixed with like a detective game, so you basically go around solving crimes and interrogating people. It was incredibly unique. The tech behind the facial animation was what really made the game stand out because they spent years making it. Because when you were interrogating people, you actually had to read their facial expressions to kind of get a sense of what they were. If they were lying to you or what was going on in reality. I just loved it. I thought it was an absolutely amazing game. It's one of my favorite games from last generation. I'm kind of sad that it's not on backwards compatibility for the Xbox One yet because I'd love to go back to it. I know you can find the standard game pretty cheap. I haven't looked this one up in a while. The complete edition was going for a decent amount a year or two ago, so I have no idea what it goes for now. But if you haven't checked it out, if you like mystery games or detective games, especially if you like open world Grand Theft Auto style games and you haven't played it, I would highly recommend doing so. It's still very playable today.
I also love this game. I actually 1000'd it on achievements on Xbox 360. It is available for PS3 as well. To let you know how much the standard version going for, it's going for $5 used. I actually just rebought it. Another game that I bought and traded it in. This is in my trade-in days where I just had to trade everything in to get the next stuff. I don't do that anymore. I collect now. So you can get it super cheap from GameStop. eBay, it's also going for about $5 shipped. So I also suggested highly I can't remember the DLC that it came with. I think was only like $5 or $10. That's why the complete edition is the one to get.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So this says right here. It says it gives you 5 additional cases to solve as part of the DLC, and I want to say this also came with a few other little niceties. But I don't have it. Like I said, it's 4 discs and comes with a full manual and everything too. So if it's not too much more and you do want to pick it up, I would definitely look for the complete edition. And just as an FYI, because I didn't know this, I had the normal edition of the game and beat it and 100%ed it, and then I picked up the complete edition, and this is not compatible with the normal edition. So if you have a save file from the normal copy and you go and pick up the complete edition, it will not be recognized, similar to what we saw with like The Witcher 3 complete edition. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, to give you an idea what the complete editions are going for, so they're going for about $15 to $20.
Okay. On eBay. Yeah. So if you're going to pick it up new, definitely go for that.
Yep. So
cool.
Great game, guys. Give it a try.
All right. Well, I think that is what we had for you for Bitcast episode 6. So just in closing, like I said, we're doing a lot of streaming and videos on Fortnite, so you'll see a lot of us, or excuse me, you'll see a lot of that in co-op. And if you go to Mixer channel for me or Bert, you may see some videos that you can check out if you're kind of curious about that game, and my impressions are on the site. As always, huge thank you to the people who tune in and listen or watch, and we do this for fun and hope you enjoy it. So you can find us on Facebook under Season Gaming, and we have a Facebook group. You can find the link to that on our site. And then on Twitter, you can find us for Season Gaming. I'm Porsche Power, and Bert is Trev M3. And then, Bert, anything you wanted to add before we close it out here?
Yeah, so we've added a new type of video or type of content for you guys to watch. We have a new thing called SG Conversations. This is going to be where we kind of pick a topic and talk at length about it. We usually have Jordan Simmons on there. So if you've heard a couple of ones, we had our debut episode last week, I believe. And so keep a lookout on those. These Bitcasts will kind of continue in the same format. We'll have a shorter main topic on these, like we had today for Switch, but the SG Conversations will be about an hour and a half long, where all three of us talk about something. So be on the lookout for that, a new type of episode for you to watch. We'll have some playlists available for you guys if you just like listening to them while you're working or, in the car. They're great content to kind of listen and tune into. So thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and one final piece on that, Bert, thank you for bringing it up, is if you'd like to listen to this in audio version on SoundCloud or iTunes, those kind of merge together. So I'll title them SG Conversations or the Season Gaming Bitcast so that you know the difference. So last week we had 2 different Bitcasts on episode 5. We had a main topic breakout. Those are going to be our conversation topics going forward, as Bert said. So those will be the larger, longer topics, and then the Bitcast format will remain as you saw today. So thank you again, and as always, if you like what you see, please subscribe and rate us and let us know if we can do anything better or any suggestions you have. But thanks for listening. Take care.